Do you want a video game where you have to suppress who you truly are to hide from authorities, and if you use some of that special powers, they'll come after you? That is the premise of Reynatis, a game that I've been playing on the PS5 for the past few days. Thanks to NIS America for sending me the limited edition of this game. It was released in Japan and now coming out in Western markets, and excited to talk about this game because this is a game I knew nothing about, and a few months ago heard, of course, that it was coming to have an English version of the game, and I've heard no one talking about this game. I've heard no one talking about this game in the West at all. So I put this on my radar as a game that I wanted to pick up and play. So again, I've been playing it for a few days. I'm going to get into the gameplay and talk about some of the things that I find really fascinating and really unique and original from a JRPG perspective. But also, I got the special edition right here. So let's do this. Let's unbox this first. Now, I'm shot this a little bit out of order because, yes, in fact, I've already opened it to play the game. So I just want to show you here what we've got with this Reynatis special edition, this limited edition. So let's crack this puppy open here and you can see what is inside. We've got, of course, an art book. Now, this art book is actually beautiful, and I spent quite a bit of time sitting down and going through this art book at night, sitting in bed and looking through some of the different designs. For instance, I really love Tempest here, and I love the design ideas for this because there's a point in the game where you launch this sort of magic for the first time, and I'll just read right from the designer of this character and what he says right here in this art book. Tempest was one of the more difficult designs. I was thinking about the setting in which wizards put magical power into objects they use in their daily lives to turn them into weapons, and I was wondering about what would be cool to use as a weapon, and I had a pen in my hand at the time, and I thought, that's it. So I decided to suggest that, using a pen and pulling this out of your clothes, and boom, it turns into an awesome looking sword, a magical sword. So lots of really great things here in this art book to page through. Yes, of course, we also have an original mini soundtrack in the game as well, and beautiful soundtrack composed by Yoko Shimomura from Kingdom Hearts, and it really has an atmospheric quality to it. That adds really a beautiful layer to this game, set in the town of Shibuya in Japan, in Tokyo. So really, really well done. Again, nice to have a soundtrack in here as well. Of course, you also have some standees and a little scene that you can set up here with these little standees. Nice little art design there that you can pop up. And of course, you have the game. You have the deluxe version of the game. Let's open up this, and inside the deluxe version of the game, we also have a nice little art book in here as well. Let's talk about the gameplay. And again, I've been playing it for a few days and really enjoying the combat experience, and the story has really sucked me in. Look, we live I think in a time when things have to capture our attention quickly, and this game absolutely did. Right away, the story sucked me into this idea that these wizards are sort of forced to live with their abilities, hiding their abilities. Almost a little bit reminds me of like the X-Men, you know, the idea of hiding your mutant abilities because authorities might come after you and try to round you up. The game's designers set the game in Shibuya, which is part of Tokyo, a really lively part of Tokyo, and from what the designers have explained, going out every day, they would try to go into the city and capture what the city looked like, the backdrop of this city, but every day it was changing. You know, one restaurant would close, a store would close, so it was very difficult to bring the city, like an up-to-date version of the city. They tried to get as close as possible. I imagine that's what it was like in Spider-Man 2, trying to capture New York City, right? You have a bodega that's going to close, a store is going to open. So, but they really wanted to root the game in reality because you have these magical characters, but they wanted the backdrop of reality, but also using these magical abilities. And I love the idea of having to suppress. There's a mechanic in the game where you have to suppress your magical abilities almost to blend in. So there are two modes in the game of combat. You have your suppressed mode when you're suppressing your magical powers, and then you have your liberated mode. You're liberated, you're as free as you want to be. And I think, you know, a lot of young players probably could relate to this, right? You have things that you're interested in. You love playing the piano, but maybe your friends aren't into that, so you hide certain things about yourselves. I bet kids would probably really appreciate this. A lot of teenagers probably would really appreciate this game. Let me just set the stage with a little bit of story here. No spoilers at all. Again, I'm still early in the game, but you really bounce between these two characters. Marin Kirizumi, who is a person who has to live, a wizard who has to live a life of oppression, and then you have Sari Nishijima, and she awakens her magical powers but decides to use them for order, become part of the magic police force to go after people like Marin, to round those individuals up, to keep the streets of Shibuya safe from these wizards. And so you will swap between these two experiences, the suppressed mode and the liberated mode, and they rely on a hoodie, which I really love. In fact, if you page through the art book, you'll even see all sorts of discussions about the hoodie and the designs of the different hoodie designs, and how to keep yourself, out of the public eye by having these different hoodies on, which is such a cool idea, and I love the art style of it. And a lot of thought went into how exactly are we going to design these hoodies to pull them up over our head. We're just a normal person here. I'm not a wizard. Keep your police force away from me. So I love that idea. To me, it felt like a really unique story. So I was sucked into this idea of these two worlds, having to hide yourself, and I wanted to see where this story goes, and I'm sucked in. So to me, that's the most important part of this. I really want to follow this story along. The other big piece of a great JRPG for me is, of course, the combat. What is the combat like? And right away, you're thrust into a tutorial for like the first 20 minutes of the game. You're learning as part of the police force, like, hey, you're about to go out on the town. You have your mission for the night, keep the streets safe. But before you go out there, we need to take you through your combat training again to give you all of those updates. And I thought it was great. I was really sucked into the combat. There were a few bugs here and there, a few hiccups where I couldn't turn around. Hopefully, some of those bugs will get worked out. But overall, the combat was great, and you have this sort of wheel that emerges, and you're reminded that you want to absorb the hits from these people. So and instead of just dodging and getting out of the way, it's sort of counterintuitive. You're about to be attacked with a sword, and you want to just absorb it. But as you absorb it, you can do a couple of things. You can take their magic, their MP away from them. You can absorb their magic abilities, and then you can also unleash it and do damaging attacks if you time it just right. So at the beginning, I was having a little trouble with that, like timing that exact mechanic to unleash my power. But then after I got it, oh man, it was so much fun to start using that regularly. They would, hit me with a sword, and I was absorbing their power and boom, unleashing it back on them. It was a really cool feeling to have. I thought the combat was really enjoyable. Dodging, rolling, absorbing, switching between liberated and suppressed modes, and building up your MP by absorbing their energies was really, really cool. So I am sold on this combat system. And then also, as the game develops, being able to swap between different characters in order to carry out your combat experience. So really, really enjoy the combat in this game. Now, is the combat incredibly fluid like Stellar Blade? No, it's not. But that, of course, is a massive, big-budget AAA game. This is not, but I still love the combat. And I think, honestly, this speaks to where I wish more companies would go. Instead of spending millions and millions of dollars on some of the polish of that combat, give me a great story, give me great combat, give me an enjoyable time. Most of the games that I've loved playing my whole life of gaming have been, 7 out of 10 games, 7 out of 10 on a chart, 8 out of 10. And I think that's probably where this game will sit for me. Really fun story, great music, really great combat. I'm compelled to, play through this 30-hour JRPG and have a great time with it. So I don't necessarily need the AAA big budget stuff. And I wish more companies would kind of take a risk like this and do some more experimental titles like Reynatis. There are some things that people might find either really enjoyable or a little frustrating. I think that's always the case with JRPGs when it comes to crafting. There's a mechanic where you have to gather materials to unlock new abilities, but you have to sell these materials to NPCs basically one by one throughout the game. And these materials really have no other useful purpose in order to do that. So you're having to kind of go through and click all these different items and one by one, selling them off. And some people might like that stuff. I've talked before here on the show. I'm just not a huge gem crafting person. It depends on the game. It depends on how they pull it off. So I've never really cared about that. I like upgrading my materials. I just don't like the gathering of the materials and piecing all of these little things together. It's just not who I am. I'm not a Virgo. Virgos tend to want to do all that kind of stuff with spreadsheets in their life. I'm a Capricorn. Okay, these are the 3 things I need to do to upgrade that sword. Or like in Tears of the Kingdom, right? Going to the fairies. Okay, I go to the fairies, I see, all right, these are the 3 things that you need me to do in order to upgrade this particular armor. Okay, I need to go find this dragon, I need to get this particular frog, and I need to find this other thing. Got it. But sometimes in these JRPGs, it ends up being all sorts of wackiness with all little pieces of items and gems, and I don't know, it just gets me frustrated, but that's just me. You know, you do you, but maybe you'll enjoy that part of it. There's another part of the game that can get a little scary, and you might find it enjoyable, and some other people might find it frustrating, which is the wanted system. So you get in trouble, right? Or it's almost like in, I don't know, Red Dead Redemption, where you become an outlaw, you shoot somebody, and now there's a bounty on your head, and you're having to get away from these people, and it almost becomes difficult because like 30 people sort of descend on you at once. And it becomes unwinnable. You're going to have like authorities coming after you. You know, if you're especially a wizard and you're trying to suppress your powers, you're going to go into hiding. Unless you get to a safe area where you can get away from those people, you're going to get killed. I mean, these are sort of like unwinnable battles and can become a little bit difficult. But you find a safe zone, fine. You can put up your hoodie and you're safe, and they'll walk on by and you're good to go. Some people might love it. Some people might find it difficult. So in like Red Dead Redemption, I always just avoided the bounties. I just didn't want, I ended up being the good guy. I just did not want to get into trouble because I didn't want to have to deal with like 30 guys coming after me. Beyond that, I'm not going to suck up any more of your time. I've really enjoyed Reynatis as a JRPG fan. This is refreshing. I love the music. I love the story. I love the combat. I'm sucked into it, and I want to continue playing this game and seeing it through, and I want to see credits roll on this game, which, coming from a busy father of 3 with a job, that's high praise. So let me know in the comments below. Are you going to pick up Reynatis? What are your thoughts about this game? Maybe you've already played the Japanese version of the game and now you want to pick up the English version. Let me know. I'm happy to answer any questions in the comments below. And yeah, we'll see you next time, everyone.